Hello, in this video I want to talk about red flags and what you can do to stop this ever happening again. You might be asking, why did it happen to me? What am I missing? Why do I keep repeating these patterns? Hello, my name's Elizabeth Goddard. I'm author of Finding Lily and the A to Z of Emotional Abuse. On this channel, I'll talk about emotional abuse, healing both emotionally and physically from the abuser, and divorcing both emotionally and physically from the abuser. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're returning, welcome back and thank you. And thank you to all my new subscribers over the last few weeks. Hello, in this video I want to talk about red flags, and the reason is I've been where you are right now. It was my version of what you're going through, but every level I've experienced, because this time I wanted to experience it deeply. I wanted to understand what it was in me that said, here I am, easy target, whether I had something flashing over like a beacon over the top of my head, or if I was emitting a certain sound that was unheard by most people and could only be heard by abusive people, a bit like a dog that picks up sounds that us mere mortals cannot hear. This abuse causes so much damage. Long-term contact with a toxic or emotionally abusive person causes damage to the brain. The damages to the hippocampus, which is in the shape of little seahorses, and they're found on either side of the brain, round about where your ears are situated. And this is the area that we use for learning and memory. So damage to the hippocampus can result in memory loss. And the stress caused by emotionally abusive relationships triggers hormones such as cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline. And these cause the hippocampus to shrink. This can happen when a child or an adult is under constant threat from intimidation or bullying behaviour. And it could be fear of abandonment or the destruction of a toy or object that can cause this. You saw the red flags, and I believe you either didn't listen to them, or if you raised concerns, perhaps you were told you were imagining something, or that you misunderstood a situation, or you might have been told that you had trust issues from other relationships. Can you see that this is actually gaslighting? I didn't see it either, but it is. Red flags. So a red flag is like a metaphor for something, like a signalling a problem. You see red flags, they're used in motor racing to stop a race when there is danger. In the book, The Railway Children, Roberta tears off her red bloomers to make a red flag with a stick, warning the train driver of danger. If you're a driver, you'll notice that signs with red backgrounds warn you to stop. So red flags are markers for concern. You have an ancient inbuilt warning system in your body, that gut feeling that tells you you should be doing something or calling someone, or perhaps you have a feeling that you should be going somewhere. In other situations, you may feel that something isn't quite right, or maybe a person is making you feel a bit odd. This is your intuition. During the idealization and devaluation stage of these relationships, the feelings get turned off as you overlooked one red flag after another. And if you did question their behavior, you were met with insincere apologies or projection. You were the one who was insecure or that had been treated badly in the past. And this was why you felt this way. It wasn't their behavior triggering you. If you had solid evidence of their behaviour, they may have told you how sorry they were, they would never do it again. And of course, they repeated this behaviour as long as you forgave them and set another challenge for them, because this was a game, how far they could push you before you would break. You may then have found yourself justifying their behaviour. You have the evidence, but you start to come up with reasons for ignoring your guts, your intuition, and you allow this behaviour to continue. You might be caught up believing that you were the only person that really understood them, so when they leave, it makes no sense. So you're experiencing the cognitive dissonance, but you're also gaslit. Think back to when they told you this. You believed them, so much like the character they played, the mask that they were wearing. They tricked you. You did pick up something. You saw the red flags. They did trick you. Perhaps you knew you should have walked away at some point, but you gave them the benefit of the doubt. You perhaps saw the damage in a child, or maybe you thought you could save them. After all, you were the only person that understood them. When you experience the trauma bonding, you don't see their behaviour as abuse because they put a lot of effort into getting you to trust them. And it is them you turn to when your safety is being threatened by them. So think back to the beginning of your interactions with that person. They were probably intense. They paid a lot of attention to you. You're like a project to them. They're collecting information. You might have received lots of gifts, days out, meals out. A lot of love was poured onto you. They loved everything about you. They couldn't get enough of you. And your gut may have jolted over a few of the red flags. And you might have felt the relationship moved faster than others you've experienced. They were looking to secure you as quickly as possible. And part of that agenda comes from not being abandoned themselves. But they will have done a few calculations beforehand. They do an ROI, which is return on investment, and they understand what role that you will be good for in their life. So their return on investment is how much time and effort they'll put in and what they're going to get back from you. You might have found yourself on a pedestal and being worshipped by them. They tell people constantly how amazing you are. They tell you that people think that you're good for each other, and they can't stop telling you how perfect you are. They can't stop telling you that you're soulmates and that you're meant to be together. They may have described all their exes as crazy and play the victim, and they may have a string of relationships where it was never their fault, including the ones where they cheated. They may tell you constantly about their awful childhood, how they were treated badly by one or both parents. They may make excuses as to why your relationship shouldn't be made public. Perhaps they are worried that one of the crazy exes might be waiting to contact you, and they want to protect you from that. The reality might be that they actually want to warn you. They want to warn you what they're really like. But the abuser can't risk you listening. Would you have believed them anyway? You've been told they're crazy and about the awful way the abuser was treated by them. At this point, where you are and where you stand now, would you take their side? Now out of the relationship, and on the other side, you might have been one of those crazy exes trying to contact the new supply. And perhaps other reasons that the relationship can't be made public is that they're actually already in a relationship, or perhaps in a few. And there might be a crazy ex wanting to contact you, but there may be one or more others believing they are actually in a relationship with the abuser. Your gut might have given you little nudges through all of this, and you might have experienced moments of clarity which the emotional abuser tried to squash. They gaslit you, and you might have been on a drip, intravenously being fed oxytocin and dopamine, which changes the chemistry in your body and numbs out these warnings. They then maneuver you around this cycle of abuse. And from this point of the idealization, they move you to devaluation. And you might have noticed the things they found amazing about you were suddenly the things they begin to criticize you for. And you might snap out of this induced haze for a moment and question them. This is a test. They are trying to work out how hooked you are in the relationship, how invested you are in it. And they want you to be more invested in protecting the relationship than you are in protecting yourself. And if you do question them, they might say something along the lines of, I was only joking, or you're being too sensitive. and they reward you, pushing you back up on the pedestal. This idealization versus devaluation is like kind versus cruel, this pattern that they play. And this is the hallmark of psychologically abusive relationships. This is the pattern that narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths use. And because of this pattern, it appears that they do have a manual. If you see a glimpse of this, get out. Do not listen to their excuses, their reasons. Block them, change your number, and go. Flattery is a condition. They are looking for a response back. It is a conditional response. Whereas a compliment is usually unconditional. You might notice the red flags, or your gut is physically kicking you. Their polar personalities swing from Mr. Nice Guy to Mr. Angry and then back again. They are master manipulators, making you feel guilty or turning everything around to be your fault or anyone else's fault, but never theirs. Try to think of a time they took responsibility for an action. They use techniques like gaslighting. You made them do it. Or if you had spent more time with them, they would never have had the affair. They use triangulation to create jealousy or to convince you that there's something wrong with you and not them. And when they move you around to the discard stage, you might find yourself becoming a detective. When they disappear, or anything they say just doesn't add up, they may trivialize your feelings or make you feel like you don't matter. Or they may have accused you of overreacting or having trust issues because of your previous relationships. They might question your memory when they change the details or deny that something has happened. They may try and justify their behaviour, pointing out other people who do similar things, who cheat, or they may say, "Did you notice the way he was looking at other women?" Breaking down your boundaries and trying to get you to believe that you're being unrealistic and there's something wrong with your views on fidelity or relationships. You may find they start to make demands on your time, isolating you from your friends and family. They might say, "Why don't you stay with me tonight? I'm going to miss you so much." You may feel flattered. Perhaps you've never felt this much attention or experienced this much attention before. They may drop in comments about friends and family, making you question if you should listen or trust to these certain people. And this is all for control. They can't risk you being near anyone who may raise concerns about their behaviour. And eventually you start to believe them, questioning everything. And then you turn to the abuser for support. They will push your boundaries in each area, in the idealization, in the devaluation and discard stages. And when they cross a boundary and you say, "No, too far," they gaslight you. Your gut feeling is your proof that something is wrong. And how to stop this happening again is to listen to your body. If something feels off, it usually is. If someone is moving the relationship at a fast pace, see how they feel about slowing it down. How do they react if you just want a quiet night in on your own? Do they try and maneuver it so that you involve them? Perhaps they offer to take you out for a meal or to get a takeaway, or they suggest that they could cook for you, offering to make your favourite meal. How do you feel with the flattery or being put on the pedestal? What does your body say about it? Does it feel genuine? And what about their story? Have you found yourself becoming more of a detective, trying to work out maybe the timeline, or to understand why they don't respond at certain times or on certain days? Again, listen to your body. Create a safe space for yourself. If you've experienced this type of abuse in the past, then you don't want to find yourself repeating those patterns. They may at first appear to be different to your last partner, but there is also a difference in the way that a covert and an overt abuser works, but it is the same pattern. Create space. If you spot a red flag, do not override it. Red flags are very important. They're the warning signals within our bodies. Decide where you stand on them. Are you going to give people another chance, 2 chances, and the third strike and they're out? What if they've sufficiently gaslit you somewhere in between? Will you be able to bail then? Your body has an ancient warning system. It's your stomach. It's your second brain. And some people believe that actually the gut is the primary brain and our brains are secondary. So we need to start to listen into our bodies and see how they feel about situations. It might take time to start building up this muscle. You might find it useful to keep a diary or a journal, make notes or write things down so that you don't forget. Your brain has its own superpower and it understands better than you when it's being attacked. Gaslighting is very dangerous and the hippocampus will shut down to protect itself. So you will need to feel safe for it to open back up again. If conversations start to raise red flags, then take a step back and make a note of what's being said, when it's being said. Maybe send messages or emails so that everything is in writing. If you see a pattern of behaviour, make a mental note of that and take a step back from that relationship. If you've been gaslit in the past, you will need to look inside you and listen to how you talk to yourself. If you haven't broken that trauma bond to the original abuser, you might need to start looking at those bonds. It's very easy to slip into a program of believing that this is all your fault, or that if you had said or done something differently, you'd be in a different place. Learning some grounding techniques will help with any triggers that arise. Remember, you're a sovereign being. You have a supreme power, especially over your body. You have freedom from external control. You are the controlling influence. Learn to step into that power. I'll put a link to the video on that in the description box below. But above all, trust your intuition and be true to yourself. If you like to find out ways of working with me, I'll put the details in the description box below, along with the links to both my books, Finding Lily and the A to Z of Emotional Abuse. I'll also put the links to 2 free workbooks. They are Turn Broken into Your Superpower and Self-Care is Vital, also in the description box below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'm sending you loads and loads and loads of love.